Yo. What's good, y'all? How we doing? How we feel? Good to see you. It's been a minute since probably a little bit more than a week. But yeah, hope you guys are doing well, staying safe. Thanks for stopping on by for this, I guess, little bit of a stream here. I know we usually do these these Fantasy House lives on Wednesday, but it was a busy week this week, so I was busy both Wednesday and Thursday and Friday, which is why it's not Saturday. Here we are doing this. So I probably won't make this a super long stream. It'll just be, just the usual, about an hour or so, kind of covering the usual reviews, the updated power rankings, the previews, and then obviously we'll go over the remaining games over in the NFL and kind of take our picks. So, but yeah, they do overall feel a little bit better. So maybe we'll start to get back more on a stream schedule, on a more of a normal one sometime. But yeah, it's been a strange month, been in a weird headspace, but maybe we'll start streaming more. But yeah, just feel pretty good, I guess. But yeah, without too much further ado, we are going to get into the good old Fantasy House Live. I'm going to turn down the tunage just a little bit. But alright, let's get the show on the road. You guys are amazing. Let's get to it. Ooh. That saxophone, yo. Alright, we'll change it. A little too intimate of a vibe for the sports we're talking about right now. Alright, this'll do. Alright, let me a quick little refuel ski. Alright, so first up, on our to-do list, is the good old weekly review. So, without too much further ado, I'm going to show you guys how week 9 ended up breaking down. Where is it? Boom. Alright. here we go. So week 9, another big week in the Hooligan House, but here were the scores. So in our first matchup, we have the newly named, formerly the BJJs, is now renamed to Pool of Dumpster Water. Pool of Dumpster Water took on All Hail the Sun God, and unfortunately took that L, with All Hail the Sun God picking up the win by a score of 147 to 87. All right, excuse me. Then in our second matchup, we had Young Guns and Team Ditka, with Team Ditka picking up the win by a score of 114 to 98. Then in our third matchup, we had Better on Paper taking on Bob's Burgers, and Bob's Burgers just barely squeaking out that win by a score of 88.05 to 89.6. So super close. Probably one of the closest margins that I've actually seen in the league this season. Moving right along, we had Team Nugent and CD's Nuts going head to head, with CD's Nuts actually picking up the win by a dominating margin of 168 to 71. Then in our second to last matchup for the week, we have D Adams Family taking on Peanut Oil, and D Adams Family picking up the win by a score of 129 to 119. So about a 10-point victory there. And then in our last matchup, we have the one of our top dogs in the Desert Swarm taking on and taking down the reigning and defending champion of the league, Kelsey Me Softly, by a score of 106 to 95. All right. Now, as we always like to do, take a deeper look at kind of how all of these broke down, which usually just means how we take a look at how each player in each team kind of just got for the week. Okay, let's move this over. Sweet, we should be good. Okay. There we go. All right. So we are going to start with our first matchup once again, which was All Hail the Sun God taking on Pool of Dumpster Water. So if we look at CJ Stroud, who had himself a career day, went off for 46 points in that 39-37 win over Tampa Bay. Geno Smith for Pool of Dumpster Water went for only 4 points in the loss to Baltimore. Continuing with Pool of Dumpster Water, we'll stay with Alexander Madison, who actually had 17 points on actually a very productive day against Atlanta. They did pick up that win there. While on the other side here for All Hail the Sun God, it was Austin Eckler, aka the Muscle Hamster, going off for about 21 points this week in a win over the Jets. Continuing with All Hail the Sun God here, as you can kind of see the pattern, we just kind of alternate back and forth. For the RB2 spot here, we have Kareem Hunt picking up 9 points in the win over Arizona. This is with Jerome Ford back. I believe Kareem Hunt actually did score a touchdown this game, so he's pretty much going to be pretty touchdown or bust dependent as long as Ford is healthy. So that's pretty much just going to be kind of his situation going forward. If we go on the other opposite side of things here, now we got Pool of Dumpster Water with Daryl Henderson, who only able to get 5 points this week in the loss to Green Bay. Then staying with Pool of Dumpster Water, but moving into a new position of the wide receivers, we have Chris Olave for the Saints, able to get 16 points in that win over Chicago, while Keenan Allen got 15 points in the win over the Jets. Then sticking once again with All Hail the Sun God, we have Zay Flowers, who was able to get only 2 points as he got held down by that Chicago team, even though Baltimore did beat Seattle. Then on the opposite side here for Pool of Dumpster Water, it was George Pickens, who has been having an up and down season, been venting frustrations as of late, able to only get 1 point this week in a win. Then moving straight into the tight ends, but yet we'll stay with Pool of Dumpster Water, and it's Taysom Hill, who had himself a pretty decent day, getting 20 points in that win for Chicago. While if we look on the opposite side, it is Dalton Kincaid got 16 points this week in the loss to Cincinnati. Then if we move into the flex spot, we'll stick with All Hail the Sun God, in which case it's Rashee Rice, who was only able to get 9 points in the win over Miami, while Tyler Lockett able to get 6 points in the loss to Baltimore for Pool of Dumpster Water. Then, if we get into the defenses, and we'll just stick with, once again, with Pool here, who had the Falcons able to get 8 points in that loss to Minnesota, while All Hail here had the Raiders able to get 18 points in that molly-whopping Giants. Then if we go into the kickers, we'll just stay with All Hail, the Sun God here. Dustin Hopkins able to get 9 points in the win for Arizona, while Blake Grupe, the kicker for New Orleans, only able to get 7 points this week in a win over Chicago. Now move straight into our next matchup, which was Team Ditka taking on the Young Guns. Let me adjust this. Perfect. Alright. So if we start over with Team Ditka and the quarterbacks, Baker Mayfield able to get 21 points this week, so actually pretty damn good. Anytime your QB can get into the 20s, it's just the primo zone. Baker able to get 21 in that loss to Houston, while Patty Mahomes only able to get 17 points this week in the win over Miami for the Young Guns. And if we just stick with the Young Guns and move into his first set of running backs, we have James Cook, who is going to now have to battle with the arrival of Leonard Fournette, so that's going to be interesting how that works. James Cook able to get 7 points in that loss to Cincinnati, while Team Ditka, Jonathan Taylor, had 17 points as he kind of continues his work back into the rotation, still being that workhorse for them in Indy. Moving on with Team Ditka here, who has Breece Hall, who got a pretty modest 11 it says 10 points in the loss to the Chargers, while Zach Moss, who now playing second fiddle to Jonathan Taylor, only able to get 2 points in the win over Carolina. Now, let me get this. Alright. Then we have, if we stick with the Young Guns, and we'll go with the wide receivers now, it is DK Metcalf able to get 6 points in that loss to Baltimore, while AJ Brown for Team Ditka able to get 19 points in the win for Dallas. Staying with Team Ditka, who picked up Deontay Johnson and saw him go off for 22 points in that win over Tennessee, while scary Terry McLaurin only able to get 12 points this week in the win. Then if we go right into the tight ends, we'll stick with the Young Guns, who had Mark Andrews, one of the best tight ends in the league right now, able to get 17 points, while Michael Mayer haven't even heard of this guy, only able to get 3 points in the win over the Giants for Team Ditka. Then in the flex spot, Team Ditka, if we just stay with them, they have Jordan Addison, who has been filling in very nicely in that Vikings offense. Unfortunately, Kirk Cousins did go down, so you're going to expect that some of the point production in your skill positions to dip a little bit, but Addison has been trying to stay productive and has been getting 10 points this week in the 31-28 win over Atlanta. Then for the Young Guns, it was T. Higgins, who was able to get 19 points in that big 24-18 win over Buffalo, which is just huge. Love to see it, as the Cincinnati team just seems to be balling out as of late. Hope they keep it doing. We move right on into the defenses for the Young Bucks. The Young Guns, they have the Saints able to get 12 points in that win over Chicago, while if we look at Team Ditka, who's only able to get 8 points in the loss to the Jets. And if we go straight into the kickers, we have, we have the Jets for Team Ditka able to get 8 points in that loss to the Chargers, while the Saints able to get 12 points in the win over Chicago. And then if we go into the kickers, and that was for the Young Guns, by the way, we'll just stay with the Young Guns again. And Jake Elliott able to get 4 points in that win over Dallas for the Eagles, while Jason Sanders only able to get 2 points for Team Ditka in that loss to Kansas City. Alright, moving on into our third matchup between Better on Paper and Bob's Burgers. Alright. So starting off with our QBs as usual. For Better on Paper, Lamar Jackson only able to get 13 points in that win over Seattle. While for Bob's Burgers, Joe Burrow able to get 25 points this week in a win over Buffalo. If we continue right along into the running backs, we'll just stick with Bob's Burgers, who had Derrick Henry able to get 19 points this week in a loss to Pittsburgh. While Isaiah Pacheco only able to get 6 points this week in a win over Miami for Better on Paper. Then if we stick with the better on paper for the next set of running backs, he had Gus Edwards, who actually has been doing quite well this season, able to get 17 points. The AKA the Gus, able to get 17 points in the win over Seattle, while DeAndre Swift able to get 9 points in the win over Dallas for Bob's Burgers. Now, if we move into our first set of wide receivers, we have for Bob's Burgers, DJ Moore only able to get 5 points in that loss to New Orleans, while Gabe Davis, for better on paper, threw up the goose egg and 0 in that loss to Cincy. Staying with better on paper, they had Darnell Mooney, who was able to get 13 points in that loss to New Orleans, while Rondell Moore only able to get 1 point in that shutout loss to Cleveland for Bob's Burgers. Just going to go ahead and stick with Bob's Burgers, who had Tyler Higbee as their tight end, who threw up a goose egg as well, while Cole Kmet, for better on paper, had 23 points this week in a loss to New Orleans. If we move into the flex spot, Joshua Kelly had 3 points in a win over the Jets, while Garrett Wilson had 13 points in a loss to the Chargers for Bob's Burgers. If we stick with Bob's Burgers again and take a look at the defenses, the Eagles able to get 4 points this week in a win over Dallas, while the Rams, for better on paper, was able to get 7 points in a loss to Green Bay. Always funny when that happens, when a defense is able to get like a modest amount of points despite losing the game. Anyways, and then if we go to the kickers, Tyler Bass able to get 4 points in that loss to Cincy, while Matt Gay able to get 11 in the win over Carolina. Alright, moving into our fourth matchup here, which was between Team Nuge and CD's Nuts. Alright, so once again, take a look at the top. Team Nugent. Alright, let's see. Justin Herbert only able to get 8 points this week in the win over the Jets. Jalen Hurts, or is it... never mind. I was going to make a Who Has Live Sports joke, but nope. Never mind. Jalen Hurts able to get 27 points this week in a win over Dallas for CD's Nuts this week. Well, if we stay with CD, they had Aaron Jones, who actually finally looked more like himself this week, able to get 17 points in that from the Rams. Well, if you look back at Nuge's team here, who had Raheem Mostert, who's also having an awesome season, getting 14 points in that loss to Kansas City. If we stay with Team Nuge and going to the next set of running backs, it was Kenneth Gainwell, able to get 9 points this week in the win over Dallas, while Rashad White for CD's Nuts here, able to get 27 points in that loss to Houston. So he has been also another just absolute stud this season. If we continue with CD's Nuts here, Devontae Adams, kind of the up and downs of his season continue, as he was only able to get 7 points in the win over the Giants, while Jalen Waddle for Mr. Nuge here able to get 8 points in the loss to Kansas City. Staying with Nuge here and his second wide receiver, which was Puka Nacua, able to get 6 points this week in a loss to Green Bay, while the namesake of CD's Nuts is CD Lamb, able to get 28 points in the loss to Philly. Moving on into the tight end spot, staying with CD here is 27 points for Mr. Dalton Schultz in that win over Tampa, while Trey McBride only able to get 5 points in the shutout loss to Cleveland for Team Nuge. Then moving into the flex spot, Jamar Chase only able to get 8 points this week in a loss to Buffalo, while Michael Pittman Jr. able to get 14 points in a win over Carolina for CD. Then if we take a look at the defenses, the Cowboys able to get 4 points this week in a loss to Philly for CD, while the Bills able to get a goose egg, or throwing up a goose egg I should say, for the Banger in a loss to the Bengals. Then finally, in our battle of the kickers, we had Cameron Dicker, the kicker, able to get 11 points for the Chargers in that win over the Jets, while Justin Tucker able to get 14 points in that win over Seattle. Yeah, we're just cooking, moving right along. Alright, in our second to last matchup, we have D. Adams family taking out Peanut Oil. Boom. Alright. Starting off, as always, at the top with the QBs, Josh Allen able to throw up 27 points this week in a loss to Cincy for Peanut Oil, while D. Adams family able to, and Tua able to get 14 points this week in a loss to Kansas City. Then staying with the Adams family, we have Saquon Barkley, able to get 14 points this week in a loss to Vegas, while Josh Jacobs able to get 21 points this week for Peanut Oil in a win over the Giants. Now, if we roll right on into the running backs, we'll stick with Peanut Oil here. We had Alvin Kamara able to get 11 points in that win over Chicago, while Rahamondre Stevenson able to get 22 points in that win over Washington for the Adams family. So staying with the Adams family, we're going to look at the wide receivers, in which case he had Stephon Diggs able to get another 22 points in the loss to Cincy, while Marquise Brown able to get 6 points in the shutout loss to Cleveland for Peanut Oil, unfortunately. It's like, who would have guessed that Cleveland would have one of the best defenses in the league? Amazing. If we take a look at the next set of wide receivers, and we'll stay with Peanut Oil, Michael Thomas threw up a goose egg in that loss to Chicago, while Devontae Smith able to get 14 points for the Adams family in the win over the Rams. Oh, my bad. That's 14 points in a win over Dallas. I looked at Luke Musgrave's stuff for a second. Speaking of Luke Musgrave, we will talk about him now, who had 14.1 points in a win over the Rams, not also in a win over the Rams, but he also had 14 points. On the opposite side for tight end here for Peanut Oil was Gerald Everett, only able to get 3 points in the win over the Jets. Then if we look at the flex spot real quick, we have Cooper Kupp for Peanut Oil, able to get 6 points this week in a loss to Green Bay, while Nico Collins able to get 14 points in a win over Tampa for the Adams family. And if we take a look at the defenses real quick, we got Steelers able to get 7 points in a win over Tennessee, while the Browns able to get 23 points in a complete shutout of the Cardinals for Peanut Oil. And finally, if we take a look at the kickers, Younghoe Koo able to get 19 points in the loss to Minnesota, while Evan Pearson able to get 6 points in the win over Buffalo. Alright, and now if we go into our last game, which is Desert Swarm taking on Kelsey Me Softly. So we have Will Levis going off. Will Levis for Desert Swarm able to get 11 points in the loss to Pittsburgh, while Gardner Minshew able to get 10 in the win over Carolina. Then staying with Kelsey Me Softly, Bijan Robinson only able to get 5 points in that loss to Minnesota, while Tony Pollard able to get 9 points in the loss to Philly for Desert Swarm. Then staying with Desert Swarm, who had Devin Singletary only able to get 4 points in the win over Tampa, while Kenneth Walker only had 2 points this week in a loss to Baltimore for Kelsey Me Softly. Staying with Kelsey Me Softly, who had Tank Dell, who had himself a day at 29 points, versus Tyreek Hill, who kind of came back to earth and lost to Kansas City, only had 12 points. Then, if we stay with Desert Swarm, we had Jacoby Myers able to get 13 points in the win over the Giants, while Josh Downs only able to get 2 points in the win over Carolina. Kelsey Me Softly. We look at the tight ends. Travis Kelce only able to get 4 points in the win over Miami, while Dallas Goedert for Desert Swarm able to get 8 points in a win for Dallas. Then if we continue on into the flex spot, we got Amari Cooper for Desert Swarm able to get 24 points in a nice good old shutout win over Arizona, while Adam Thielen for Kelsey Me Softly only able to get 7 points in a loss to Indy. Then if we take a look at the defenses, staying with Kelsey Me Softly and the Chargers able to get 26 points in a blowout win over the Jets, while the Ravens able to get a damn good 15 points in a win over Seattle. Then finally, if we take a look at the two kickers, we had Brandon Aubrey for Desert Swarm able to get 7 points. Then there was Kyrie Fairbairn, who I believe he actually got was that this game against Tampa that he got injured? I think it was. But he was able to get 6 points before he got out, or before he went out with injury. Alright, and I think that ends this section, which is just the reviews. Which brings us to our next section, which is the all-acclaimed Power Rankings. So, as you can see, there has been some shifting around in our top dogs. Moving up to number 1, he's finally earned it, is the Desert Swarm with a record of 7-2. Also with a record of 7-2 and staying at the number 2 top dog spot is the Addams Family. Then finally, newcomer to the top dogs and also with a 7-2 record is All Hail the Sun God, finally reaching in to that number 3 overall top dog spot. Then if we go into the middle of the pack here, we have Team Nugent falling down into the 4th spot with a 6-3 record. Team Dicka remaining at number 5 with a 6-3 record as well. Then CD's Nuts moving up to the 6th spot with a 5-4 record, while Peanut Oil also with a 5-4 record dropping to the 7th spot this week. Kelsey Me Softly, the technically reigning and defending champion, holding still at number 8 with 3-6 on the record. Moving up to the 9th spot is actually Bob's Burgers, who also has a 3-6 record. Falling down to 10th was the Young Guns this week, who has a 2-7 record. Then moving into the unfortunate dumpster fighters of the league, it is Puddle of Dumpster Water, who also has a 2-7 record, sitting at 11th. And in dead stinking last, unfortunately, is Better on Paper, who's sitting at 1-8 on the season. All right. See, that always goes super quick. It's just reading one thing straight down. Which brings us to the next section. Our quick little previews. So just this. Give them another swig. All right. Now, as we usually do with all of these, we'll take a look at what all of the matchups are, and then we'll kind of go in and make our pick on which player we think is going to perform better. So here we go. Oh yeah, and I added one thing, which you can probably see. So, in our first matchup, we have All Hail the Sun God taking on the reigning, defending champion of the league, Kelsey Me Softly. Kelsey Me Softly coming in the matchup with a 3-6 record, while All Hail the Sun God coming in the matchup with a 7-2 record. In our second matchup, we have the Young Guns coming into this matchup with a 2-7 record, going against the dead last, Better on Paper, who have a 1-8. In our third matchup, it is Team Nuge taking on Bob's Burgers. Team Nuge sitting at 6-3, while Bob's Burgers is 3-6. Then in our fourth matchup, it is CD's Nuts taking on Peanut Oil. Both teams currently sitting at 5-4 on the season. Then in our second to last matchup, and it is this week's game of the week, which is obviously what GOTW means. It is D. Addams Family and the Desert Swarm, both teams in the top dogs and sitting with the same record of 7-2, going head to head. So someone will be dropping in to possibly the third overall top dogs, or out of the top dogs entirely if this keeps up. So that'll be one to keep an eye on. And then our last matchup of the week is Pool of Dumpster Water taking on Team Ditka. Pool of Dumpster Water coming in the matchup at 2-7 on the season, while Team Ditka is sitting at a rock solid 6-3. All right. Now, we're going to take a look a little bit more deeply. A quick little deeper look at all of these. Kind of make our picks into who we think is going to perform better. So, first matchup. Here we go. Between Kelsey Me Softly and All Hail the Sun God. So, we have Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville taking on San Francisco versus CJ Stroud and Houston taking on Cincy. Ooh, this is going to be good. CJ Stroud coming off a career game, looking damn good. Trevor Lawrence has been actually looking very good this season as well. But they are taking on San Francisco. It's not to say that they won't be beaten or can't be beaten, but if I had to guess, I think CJ might have just the edge on this one, just because of how much momentum he's had going into each of these matchups, and he just looks so legit. Cincy, we'll see. They could bottle him up too, but we'll see. We've also seen San Francisco drop.
Feel the rhythm! Feel the rhyme! Get on up! It's bobsled time! Cool running!
Janae, thank you so much. How's it going, everybody? Thank you so much for the raid. How you doing? How you feeling? What were you playing? How was the night? Thank you so much, fam. Janae, what's going on? Appreciate you. Ooh, you were playing some WoW? Hell yeah. How you been digging it? And it was good? Hell yeah. Were you doing some raids, or you just kind of like questing around? Loving it? Yes. That's what we love to hear. It's so fun. Just questing around? Hell yeah. That's what I like to hear. You went Horde, right? Yeah, of course you went Horde. For the Horde! Questing for now. Until you level up, and then you can go run around with Duke and Brody. Yeah. Save, you gotta go Horde. But, hell yeah. Well, you came in at a great time, as we're technically going over the words. Going over the previews for our league, ironically enough. But, hell yeah. I know it's probably late, so if you're probably planning on laying down, that's totally cool too. Nonetheless, as soon as I said I got the game, it was already set. Oh, yep. You're like, yep. All right, so you're just gonna be Horde now. You're like, what if I want to be Alliance? No. It's Horde. It's Horde. You mean Horde? Yep, 100%. Nah, I'm wired. Oh, I had one of those earlier. I'm drinking this G Fuel right now. But it probably won't be on for like super long, just because I did get on super late and doing stuff. But once again, thank you so much for the raid. Appreciate you. You're wonderful. You too had one around 9:30. I had one when we ran out to Target and stuff, so I was at like maybe just after 8 or so. You're still wired from the one you had at night. I had one like earlier this evening. I'm still drinking G Fuel. I probably won't do anything. You must be pretty sensitive to caffeine, huh? The green tea one ain't no joke. I was like, Sherry's the same way, honestly. Super sensitive. Oh, you don't think so? I was like, because there's been times where like she has like a sip of like some of my coffee will be too strong, and then she can't sleep at night. I was like, is that the same with you? Sometimes you just drink, like you said, sometimes you just drink something in the morning. Oh, I drink a Red Bull and can crash. Ah, okay, got you. 100%. But so, yeah, hey, those Celsius be good. I had like, I think it was like an orange one. Kind of tasted like a juice. It was so good. This song is kind of creepy. Let's change this. You gotta try the peach mango and green tea one. That sounds amazing. I'm specifically gonna look for that one next time. I'm actually gonna write that down. See if I can find one of them at the Jewel tomorrow. All right. Suggested by the man himself, Sir Duke El Nukem. Hey. He's a man of class and fine taste, is what you're saying. Feel that? That's respect right there. I don't have much left of this, but pros to that. A man of culture. All right. Well, without too much further ado. Okay. Well, first of all, let me give you a good old shout out for the family that being so gracious and dropping the raid skin. Thank you. For you guys that don't know me already, I'm Call Me Zios. I stream sometimes. I'm trying to get back into a rhythm of things. I stream a whole bunch of stuff: sports, shooters, action stuff. These little fantasy shows about sports, do those too. We do it all. But anyways, will you call us while we are doing Fantasy House Live, which is our kind of like community fantasy league kind of like recap and preview show? I don't know, but yeah, we are technically going over the preview for this next week, so that is where we're going to pick up. We are in just the first matchup here, kind of going through the players and kind of making our picks on who we think is going to perform better. Yeah, that is where we are. So without too much further ado, let's do it. I believe we talked about the quarterbacks. So moving into the running backs here, we have Bijan Robinson in Atlanta taking on Arizona versus Austin Eckler and the Chargers taking on Detroit. Oh boy, the matchup. Well, Austin Eckler is good, and I think he's like scored in pretty much he scored a touchdown at least every game he's played. So I think chances are very good on that. Bijan Robinson was looking like, he's still a stud, and he was looking incredible at the start of the season. However, the Falcons have kind of fallen off. Bijan's production has also kind of fallen off as a result of that as well. It's not just purely his fault. A lot of things have gone wrong. Arizona, they're pretty mediocre, so if this was the game where Bijan was to say break out and have a good game, this could be it. This does favor him, but given the fact that it's Atlanta and they're still once again they're kind of middle of the pack team, could give him some trouble. So I'm gonna go ahead and give the edge to Eckler on this one, but I can totally see this as being one of those breakout bounce back games for Bijan. But yeah. All right. Moving into the next set of running backs here, we got Kenneth Walker, Seattle taking on Washington versus Najee Harris, Pitt taking on Green Bay. Well, Washington Commanders used to have a good defensive front. They since then have gotten rid of both Montez Sweat and Chase Young, which I believe only leaves Daron Payne. So that's, oh man. But Seattle has been also kind of not clicking as well. But then if we look over at Pitt, this is also kind of a bad matchup between Pittsburgh and Green Bay. It looks like it's in Pittsburgh too. And the funny thing, it's both Najee Harris and Jalen Warren seem like they've been pretty much plug and play, getting around the same points each week. Green Bay is terrible this year. Honestly, I think given that Washington made their team weaker, I'm going to go ahead and say that Kenneth Walker's actually going to have the better week. All right, moving into the wide receivers. Starting with Brandon Ayuk and San Fran taking on Jacksonville versus Amon-Ra. Detroit taking on the Chargers. Ooh, easily, you got to go Amon-Ra. Detroit is just one of the hottest teams right now. They're killing it. Chargers, their defense especially not looking good. With as well as that team is clicking right now, I'm going to continue to see Amon-Ra's production continue. Whereas Brandon Ayuk, I know he's going to be the main focus, probably, at least one of the main focuses. Oh, wait, actually, I think Debo comes back. So it'll be back to a lot of mouths to feed because, McCaffrey, Debo, and Ayuk, Kittle, all of those players, So insane for San Francisco. So that's why, once again, like I said, Amon-Ra I think is going to have a better week. Moving into the next set of wide receivers, it's Keenan Allen and the Chargers taking on Detroit. There's Tank Dell and Houston taking on Cincinnati. Ooh. Tank Dell did have another breakout game, but he was coming off of, was it this game? Nah, I don't think it was this game. He was coming off an injury. But can we expect a repeat performance against a Cincinnati defense that's starting, or a Cincinnati team that's starting to find themselves? Whereas Keenan Allen is on he's been having an awesome season. Seems to get the ball no matter what because he's one of Justin Herbert's favorite and trusted targets. But that Detroit defense, like I say, these ain't the old lines. These lines are damn good. So man, the ceiling is high for Dell, but the floor I think is higher for Keenan. So I'm gonna go out on a limb and say Tank Dell might have the potential to have a better day. I'm just not convinced that the Chargers will be able to move the ball as easily against Detroit. But hey, I mean, since Keenan's on my team, and I would love for him to go off, but we'll see. Okay, moving into the tight ends, we have Logan Thomas in Washington taking on Seattle versus Dalton Kincaid in Buffalo taking on Denver. Got to go with Dalton Kincaid on this one. He's been stepping in awesomely for Dalton Knox. Josh Allen's been throwing his way a ton. The matchup is even favorable against Denver, who is pretty garbo this season, as you guys probably know. Yeah. All right, moving into the flex, we got T.J. Hockenson. Ooh, the double tight ends. We got T.J. Hockenson in Minnesota taking on New Orleans versus Thielen, who played the Bears and got 10 points. So I got like one day technically to decide, but so I don't know. I can't really say anything this one. We'll just see because it's already started. So, but I will say, I guess, about the current matchup. I don't know. It's going to be hard. It's going to be another Josh Dobbs game. Dobbs got them to win in his first game. You can only hope that maybe the production's going to be better as he's going to have more time with the team. He did throw to Hockenson, who did get he got hurt but came back in the game. He's one of their pieces on offense, one of the main pieces on that offense. So, and if one thing that remains true is that any new quarterback or just quarterback in general, one of their favorite things to throw to is their big ass tight end. And who's the big ass tight end on the Vikings? Motherfucking T.J. Hockenson. So we'll see. He's questionable in the matchup. Could be in a snap count because he did have a rib injury, but we'll see. Hopefully not though. Could also just switch him out, but either way, we can't really make a pick between the two because Adam Thiel's starting. Moving on into the defenses, we have the Colts and Indy taking on New England versus the Raiders taking on the Jets. Ooh. I mean, the offenses of these two teams aren't necessarily good. Like, Zach Wilson has not been very good. That defense has bailed them out more times than not, which I think might be the case here, where this is two very... The Jets' defense is good. Raiders' defense is also pretty good this season, but their offenses are not. The Colts, on the other hand, they are, again, one of the kind of middle of the pack. New England, not very good. Is it Minshew Mania? I think the Raiders are running with Aiden O'Connell again, so man, this might be a push because I think they're going to score about the same. Like, it's really hard to say. I guess maybe what the Raiders are playing, maybe give the Raiders an edge because it's going against Zach Wilson, but it's not like Mac Jones is any better. That one's such a tie. It's hard to tell. All right, if we move to the kickers, we got Riley Patterson in Detroit taking on the Chargers versus Cleveland and Baltimore taking on Dustin Hopkins. Cleveland taking on Baltimore. Honestly, I think Dustin Hopkins might have the better day. I could see, while the Baltimore defense is good, I could totally see that Cleveland's able to get some chunk plays and able to, because I mean, Dustin Hopkins actually hit the ball pretty far. So, and it's in Baltimore, so we'll see about how much that plays into a factor. But the Chargers play in SoFi, so that'll be nice. But Dustin Hopkins, I think, because those teams and those defenses are both kind of so evenly matched this season, you can totally see the opportunity for Hopkins to have a little bit more edge for free rolls. All right, into our second matchup, which was the Young Guns taking on better on paper. Okay, starting off with the QBs, we have Taylor Heineke in Atlanta taking on Arizona versus Lamar Jackson, Baltimore taking on Cleveland. Honestly, as much as I like Lamar, I think there's more potential for Taylor Heineke to go to air it out against Arizona than there is for Lamar to, because Cleveland's defense is really good. So we'll see. I think that he might be a little bit more limited. They still might be able to get the win, but I just think that Taylor Heineke and the fact that it's going against Arizona, they got shut out last week, even though they were playing against Cleveland. I think Heineke might be able to ball a little bit. Moving to the running backs, we have James Cook and Buffalo taking on Denver versus Joe Mixon and Cincy taking on Houston. I'm going to go with Joe Mixon to have the better day. He's been a huge part of that offense, and I expect Houston's defense isn't like super good. They are playing better than expected as of the season so far, but I think that Mixon's going to have the better day compared to James Cook, even though James Cook is averaging over 5 yards per carry still in the season, and the matchup is even favorable with Denver. So you could very well see James Cook also score a little bit pretty high too, but I think the breakout potential for Joe Mixon is a bit, or the ceiling for Joe Mixon is a little bit higher. Moving to the running backs, we got Zach Moss and Indy taking on New England versus Gus Edwards and Baltimore taking on Cleveland. Even though they're taking on Cleveland, I'm still going to roll with Gus Edwards. Zach Moss is playing second fiddle to Jonathan Taylor, so he's not really going to be seeing the field much. But Gus Edwards he's been kind of that bell cow for the Ravens, and so he's going to probably be seeing a decent amount of touches. Nice little sip of this. All right. Then if we go into the wide receivers, we have DK Metcalf and Seattle taking on Washington versus Gabe Davis and Buffalo taking on Denver. I like Gabe Davis as the pick. I just like the matchup versus Denver. I think Josh Allen might be able to take advantage of that. Gabe Davis being one of those main beneficiaries of it. If we go into, let's see. Where is it? Oh, next set of wide receivers here. Well, we can't really make too many picks here. We can only really comment. So, as is for Scary Terry taking on Seattle, that'll be interesting. I mean, Seattle's I think Seattle's just the better team going into that. So, I think their defense is probably gonna cause a little bit of trouble for, I think, Mr. Sam Howell. Although Sam Howell is, I think, number 2 or 3 in passing yards, which I don't think anyone saw that coming. If we take a quick little look then at the tight ends, Cole Kmet already put up his 9. Mark Andrews, he's one of the best tight ends in the league. He's taken on a very tough Cleveland defense, so we'll see how that one goes. Moving into the flex, we have Christian Kirk at Jacksonville taking on San Fran versus OBJ and Baltimore taking on Cleveland. Ooh, this isn't favorable for either. Like, I've said it like a bunch just before that Cleveland's a very good defense this week. Same thing with San Francisco. But given that OBJ, I don't think is even technically the number 1 wide receiver in Baltimore. He's more of a secondary wide receiver. I don't think he's getting as many targets as Christian Kirk, who is one of their main primary targets there in Jacksonville. So I'm going to go ahead and say Kirk on this one. In the defenses, we have Seattle taking on Washington versus the Niners taking on Jacksonville. I'm going to go with the Niners, as Jacksonville, just because it's the Niners. They're too damn good. I know they've dropped a few, but there's also the games where they can just be a complete buzzsaw, and this also has buzzsaw potential. Moving into the kickers, we have Tyler Bass in Buffalo taking on Denver versus Daniel Carlson in Las Vegas taking on the Jets. Honestly, I think Carlson might have an edge in this one just because those teams could just stall each other out, and Carlson I know he's been inconsistent, but he might be able to get some decent points, whereas Tyler Bass, he is good, but I think that the matchup is too favorable in Buffalo's favor, that they'll be able to kind of like drive down the field, perhaps score a bunch, or maybe just lead to some chip shot field goals, which won't equate to as much points. Alright, moving into our third matchup, we have Bob's Burgers and Team Nugent. So starting off the QBs, we got Joe Burrow and Cincy taking on Houston versus Justin Herbert, and the Chargers taking on Detroit. Probably Joe Burrow. They've really been starting to find their rhythm, and Houston, like I said, even though they're still middle of the pack, Detroit's just a super tough ask of this I don't want to say struggling Chargers team, but they've been kind of hot They're up and down is what I want to say. And they're going against a rock-solid defense in Detroit. Then if we look at running backs real quick, we got Derrick Henry in Tennessee taking on Tampa versus Jahmyr Gibbs in Detroit taking on the Chargers. I think Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry is a beast. Jahmyr Gibbs is also a beast. Chargers defense, pretty good. It's got Khalil Mack. Also got Boza. Give me... man. I kind of want to go with King Henry in this one. But although, because they did just let CJ Stroud just go all over for him on a career day. But I'll still go with King Henry. Moving to the next set of running backs, we have Tyler Allgeier and Atlanta taking on Arizona versus Antonio Gibson and Washington taking on Seattle. I'm going to roll with Antonio Gibson on this one. I think him and Brian Robinson in Washington are used kind of like interchangeably. Whereas Tyler Allgeier, I think he did score last week, but I mean, he was a pretty limited fashion. So I'm just going to go ahead and with Antonio Gibson on this one. Moving into the first set of wide receivers, we have DJ Moore, which we already played his, got 10 points, pretty good. Versus Jamar Chase and Cincy taking on Houston. Should be an interesting game, should be a good test for both teams. Cincy, are they contenders or pretenders? In Houston, it was like this would be a huge test for them because I think this would be way ahead in their rebuild for them if they were to beat Cincy. Then moving into the next set of wide receivers, we have Mike Evans in Tampa taking on Tennessee versus DeAndre Hopkins and Tennessee taking on Tampa. D-Hop has still got Will Levis to him, which is good. Tampa, decent defense. Mike Evans. Baker Mayfield's like favorite target. I'm actually going to go with Mike Evans on this one for literally why I just said he's like one of Baker's favorite targets. Tennessee's defense, alright-ish. Even though it is D-Hop and Will Levis is going to be quarterbacking it. So I know D-Hop benefited the first time he was out, but I think Mike Evans might have a better day. Moving into the tight ends, we have David Njoku in Cleveland taking on Baltimore versus Evan Ingram. Jacksonville taking on San Fran. Let's do... I think Njoku might play a bigger role in that game. Ingram might be getting shut down, so I think might get shut down by that defense where even though it's two good defenses, like I said, Njoku with... I can't remember if Deshaun's playing or not, but if Deshaun's playing, that only rises his stock. Moving into the flexes, we have Garrett Wilson and the Jets taking on Las Vegas versus Jerry Jeudy in Denver taking on Buffalo. Garrett Wilson, 100%. He's the number one there. Jerry Jeudy's still kind of playing second fiddle to Cortland Sutton, also having a down year. Garrett Wilson, though, he still staying somewhat productive as much as you can be with one Garrett Wilson, or Zach Wilson at QB. Then if we go into the defenses, we have the Lions and Detroit the Lions taking on the Chargers versus the Bills taking on Denver. I think the Bills taking on Denver might get more points than the Lions taking on the Chargers. Although I could be totally wrong on that one for sure. Moving into the kickers, we have Matt Gay and Indy taking on New England versus Cameron Dicker, the kicker, and the Chargers taking on Detroit. I think Cameron Dicker might have the potential to have more points, as Chargers could get downfield but then just stall out, and Cameron Dicker can come out and score some extra points for him. Alright, moving into our fourth matchup, we have CD's Nuts taking on Peanut Oil. Josh Dobbs in Minnesota taking on New Orleans versus Josh Allen in Buffalo taking Denver. Gotta go Josh Allen, just purely based off of the matchup. Moving into the first set of running backs, we have Aaron Jones in Green Bay taking on Pitt versus Josh Jacobs and Vegas taking on the Jets. I'm going to say Aaron Jones based on the matchup. Pittsburgh is kind of a middle-of-the-road defense, but... no, they're not. Actually, they're not. Oh, boy. These are... Pittsburgh's actually a good defense. And just a mediocre offense. But the Jets are... I still might go Aaron Jones, but not by much. It's not really favorable for either. In the running back 2, we have Tampa taking on Tennessee versus Kamara, and New Orleans taking on Minnesota. I think... Rashad White has been having a good season, I think. But man. It's because he's a cheesehead. I mean, Vegas will be probably running the ball more. I don't know if who's even quarterbacking it, if it's going to be Jimmy G or Aiden O'Connell again or someone else. But the Jets defense is really good. So I think he'll get bottled up a bit more. Whereas Aaron Jones, they are playing in Pittsburgh. Honestly, Green Bay hasn't won in Pittsburgh since like the 70s, which is an unfortunately true stat. And Pittsburgh does have TJ Watt, who's a freak of nature. So I think there's a tiny bit of potential there for Aaron Jones. But if this game script goes like it has been the other few games with Aaron, where it's been like he had like maybe like 10 reps, I don't know. These two are almost like a push, but it's hard to tell. It's not really, like I said, the matchup isn't great for either of these guys. Because these are two backs that could also just equally tie for points, you know? They could both... I mean, Josh Jacobs does score touchdowns, so does Aaron Jones, but... just based on... Yeah, exactly, since his injury. 100%. But it's not a favorable matchup either way with Pittsburgh, but... once I mean, hopefully the Green Bay game script will have him included more. Last week was the first time in like several weeks he had like over 20, and he produced, so we'll see. But like I said, it's Pittsburgh. They're pretty good. That second matchup, I think I'm gonna go ahead and say Kamara though, because Tennessee, like Rashad White will definitely get touches, but Tennessee's actually pretty stout against the run. So I think Kamara might have the edge, but if... it's Minnesota. They're also kind of like decent against the run. So I'm going to say Kamara just by a hair. Moving to the next matchup, we got Devontae and Vegas taking on the Jets versus Marquise Brown in Arizona and Atlanta. See, this is another one. I'm going to go ahead and say Devontae. But it really depends on who's quarterbacking, because that's a good defense. And if it's Aiden O'Connell or Jimmy G, they're going to kind of struggle, but but at the same time, oh wait, actually I'm going to switch that back. I'm going to switch to Marquise Brown. This is going to be a Kyler game. I think it's Kyler's first game back, and Marquise Brown was like one of his favorite targets when he was there. And they're winning against Atlanta, who's not that great either, so I'm going to go with Marquise Brown on that one. If we go into the next matchup of wide receivers, it's CeeDee Lamb in Dallas taking on the Giants versus Michael Thomas in New Orleans taking on Minnesota. Michael Thomas was arrested yesterday, so who even knows that man's going to be fucking playing. So we're going to go ahead with CeeDee Lamb, who also just has the favorable matchup as Dallas is going to whoop the shit out of the Giants. Then in the tight end spot, there is Dalton Schultz in Houston taking on Cincy versus Gerald Everett and the Chargers taking on Detroit. Got to go with Dalton Schultz. Gerald Everett has just been too hot or cold. Most of the time it's been pretty cold, and they're taking on Detroit. Not an easy task. Dalton Schultz, he's been one of the main beneficiaries of CJ Stroud going off, and hey, I'm here for it because I have him in another league. But anyways, the matchup, although isn't 100% favorable, as it is taking on a pretty decent Cincinnati team that has been on a bit of a roll lately, so we'll see. Moving into the flex spot, we got Michael Pittman Jr. in Indy taking on New England versus Cooper Kupp, who's on bye, so they better get his ass out of there. I should probably remind people. I'll do that after this. In the defenses, we have the Cowboys in Dallas taking on the Giants versus the Browns, and Cleveland taking on Baltimore. Cowboys going to definitely easy get more points than that one. And then if we go into the kickers, we have Justin Tucker in Baltimore taking on Cleveland versus Younghoe Koo in Atlanta taking on Arizona. I like both these kickers, but can't count against the great one here with Justin Tucker, who seems to have like infinite range. And I could easily see that these two teams like tap out and have to kick some field goals. All right. Second to last, we got the Addams Family taking on Desert Swarm in our game of the week. So we got Derek Carr in New Orleans taking on Minnesota versus Brock Purdy in San Fran taking on Jacksonville. I think Derek Carr has the potential to score more points than Mr. Brock Purdy. I don't know. I guess I'm not sold on the kid. And also the fact they have Christian McCaffrey, they could just feed him off too, you know. Just 1 second. Let's see. Now we got Saquon and the Giants taking on Dallas versus Tony Pollard and Dallas taking on the Giants. Oof. Gonna have to go with Tony Pollard on this one, even though I do like Saquon, but that Giants team right now is atrocious, and they got a tough task in Dallas, so that's not good. So we're just gonna roll on with Tony on this one. Moving to the next set of running backs, we have Travis Etienne in Jacksonville taking on San Fran versus Rahamondre Stevenson in New England taking on Indy. I'm gonna go with Rahamondre on this one. San Fran's defense is no joke. I do like Etienne though; he's good, been having a great season, but too good of a defense for San Fran. The matchup just favors Stevenson better. In the wide receiver ones, we have Stephon Diggs taking on Denver versus Amari Cooper in Cleveland taking on Baltimore. Stephon Diggs for sure, purely based on the matchup. I like Cooper as well, but once again, the Buffalo versus Denver is just a mismatch because Denver sucks this year. If we go into wide receivers, we have Chris Godwin in Tampa. Wide receiver twos, we have Chris Godwin in Tampa taking on Tennessee versus Cortland Sutherland, and Denver taking on Buffalo. Ooh, honestly, I could see Godwin have the better day. I know he's been kind of playing a little bit a second fiddle to Mike Evans there, but Tennessee stout against the run, not that great against the pass. Cortland Sutton been one of the only beneficiaries of Russell Wilson this year, but he's been one of the main targets. Buffalo's defense is actually really good though, especially when they re-upped and got Rasul Douglas as well, so that's just more corner depth. So I think Chris Godwin might have the better day. In the tight end spot, we have George Kittle in San Fran taking on Jacksonville versus Cade Otton in Tampa taking on Tennessee. We're gonna roll with Kittle. Even though there is a lot of mouths to feed on there, he's been kind of coming stronger and stronger on as the season's gone on. In the flex spot, we have Jahan Dotson in Washington taking on Seattle versus David Montgomery in Detroit taking on the Chargers. Gonna go with David Montgomery on this one. If he's healthy, who knows, you might even see a little bit of Jahmyr Gibbs too, given that Jahmyr Gibbs have been having some monster games with him out. But I would expect that even with like the split carries, I think just how good David Montgomery's been, he'll still get more points. Then moving to the defenses, we have the Ravens taking on Cleveland versus the Steelers taking on Green Bay. I think I'm going to pick the Steelers. Going to have the better day. Just not. I think we're just going to have Green Bay's going to continue to have problems. Two good defenses going against. I think the Ravens are going to have. Ravens defense is going to do pretty well as well, but I just think the Steelers defense has way more potential to disrupt that game than the Ravens. Then in the kicker spot, we have Evan McPherson and Cincy taking on Houston versus Brandon Aubrey and Dallas taking on the Giants. I'm going to go ahead and say Evan McPherson just because those are if Houston plays like super stout and they pretty much stop Cincy, which is, I guess what I'm saying is I could totally see these two teams being a little bit more evenly matched. And if that's the case, Evan McPherson is totally going to be a part of that and like a big piece in that. So I think he might have the potential to have a better day. All right, final one between Pool of Dumpster Water and Team Ditko. So we have Kyler Murray returning in Arizona, taking on Atlanta versus Baker, taking on Tennessee. I'm going to go with Baker, I'm going to go with Kyler, going against that Atlanta team that's not that great. Kyler has tons of ability to move, so we'll see how much his injury has really affected him there. Moving into the running backs, we have McCaffrey taking on Jacksonville versus Jonathan Taylor taking on New England. Oh, man. I'm going to have to go with both these quarterbacks or both these running backs are going to have a damn good day, but I'm going to have to go and say McCaffrey. Even though that New England's defense is not great and JT's good, it's just, in that Indianapolis offense is a little interesting. Moving to the next set of running backs, we have Madison and Minnesota taking on New Orleans versus Breece Hall, and the Jets taking on Las Vegas. I'm gonna guess Breece Hall and the Vegas because Madison, I'm just not sold on him. Plain and simple. In the wide receiver ones, we have Jordan Addison in Minnesota taking on New Orleans versus Chris Olave taking on Minnesota. I think Olave might have the better day. Addison's been killing it, but New Orleans secondary is insane. So I think Olave is gonna have the better day. In the wide receiver 2 spot, we have George Pickens and Pitt taking on GB. Oh, it didn't do the read. I thought it was going to do the lo. What's going on, BT? Much love, my guy. Appreciate you, dude. How we doing? How we feeling? Chilling? Oh yeah, bro. Yeah, I'm not sure why it didn't do the tingy. But welcome on day in, home dog. We kind of getting towards the end of a good old Fantasy House Live. How is Atlas falling? Whoop whoop. Let's see. Game's lit? Hell yeah, bro. Easy to just play. Might end up picking it up at some point. Later on, though. Okay. Where were we? We were on wide receivers. So we have George Pickens and Pitt taking on Green Bay versus Deontay Johnson and Pitt taking on Green. Oh, that's funny. Which Pitt wide receiver is going to have the better day? George Pickens. I think George Pickens is going to have the better day. I don't think we play zone, and Jair's not always going to be following George. So I think Pickens might have... Deontay Johnson's also coming off a good game too. But I don't know. Something's telling me that Pickens is going to have a good day. Moving into the tight ends, we have Taysom Hill in New Orleans taking on Minnesota versus Sam Laporta and Detroit taking on the Chargers. I'm going to go with Sam Laporta. He's been having an awesome season. Chargers, kind of mediocre. He's been working that Detroit offense pretty well. I know Taysom Hill's that gadget guy, and he can run, you can pass, and you can do it all. So that's why it also kind of makes him a threat, especially against Minnesota. But I'm guessing Sam Laporta. In the flex spot, we got Tyler Lockett in Seattle taking on Washington versus Jerome Ford in Cleveland taking on Baltimore. Seattle's been kind of mediocre this season. Washington, they did just give up a lot of pieces on defense, so they just made themselves worse. Jerome Ford, starting running back, is finally back, but going against a very stout Baltimore defense. I guess I'm going to roll with Lockett on this one, just because it's how bad that Washington team is now, or the defense. Then if we go into the defenses, we have the Patriots taking on Indy versus the Jets taking on Vegas. Oof. Both have the potential to almost shut out their opponents. Really depends on who's the quarterback for Vegas. Is it Aiden O'Connell or is it going to be Jimmy G? Give me the Jets, I guess. Then if we go into the kickers, we have Blake Groupie in New Orleans taking on Minnesota versus Jake Moody in San Fran taking on Jacksonville. I think honestly Blake Groupie might have a chance for more points, as there could be chances where the New Orleans offense just kind of gets stuffed or whatnot, and they have to kick it. Whereas Jake Moody, I think they're going to have a little bit more of their way with Jacksonville, I think. All right. So that brings us to the end of our kind of like preview guesses. So now the only thing left to do is kind of make our picks for the remaining NFL games. So we're going to go here, go to scores. No. Maybe I have to go to schedules. Yeah. There we go. Okay. Oop. Boom, boom, boom. Let me get this. Okie dokie. Now that we got that, we'll make this normal sized again. Ditch that for a second. Open this. Bum, bum, bum. And then we'll do this. We'll just do that. Okay, cool. Perfect. All right, here are the games. We're going to discount this one because this one already happened. So get rid of that one. Actually, I should start circling these in like a different color. I should start circling one like purple. Okay, so we got Colts, Patriots. Fuck it, give me the Colts. Browns, Ravens. Ravens. Actually, give me the Browns. Bengals, Texans. I'm gonna go Bengals. Niners, Jags, Niners. Wait. What? Didn't see that one before. Jags, Niners, still going Niners. Vikings, Saints, Saints. They lost 3 straight. Who? Oh, the Niners? This is the Jags, though. Good lord. Niners. What the fuck? Packers, Steelers. I don't think we're going to win. We haven't won in Pittsburgh since the 70s. Titans, Buccaneers. Oh, look at this fucking game. Give me Titans. Falcons, Cards. Give me Cards in Kyler's return. Lions, Chargers, Lions. Giants, Cowboys. Give me the boys. Seahawks, Commanders, Seahawks. Raiders, Jets. Raiders. I have no idea who's going to be quarterback. Broncos, Bills, Bills. All right. That's our picks. Save. Let's see how we do tomorrow. All right, y'all. I suppose I can do that. Swing us back. Pick me, I'm a girl. Ooh, woo. Anywho, all right, that is it. We have reached the end of the Fantasy House Live. It is almost 2:30, so we're probably just gonna hop off. BT, I guess if you want to chill for a little bit, we can. But yeah, we went through the reviews or we went through Week 9 review, and I got you guys all caught up on what happened during Week 9. Then we took a look at the updated power rankings for Week 10, which I'm still woke. Lol. Hey, I think you and me are both in the top dogs now, brother. Whoop, whoop. And then there is the what's it called? Then we went over the previews for Week 10 and take a look at the matchups, and then took kind of our picks at which players in those matchups are going to do better. And then finally, new to this season, we've been taking a look at the remaining NFL games for the week and taking our picks at who's going to win. That's been kind of like a little fun way to end it. But yeah, that's probably going to end it here. So I want to thank you guys for tuning in and hanging out. Thanks for the resubs, the raids. This has actually been this is actually a pretty good stream. Like I said, hopefully maybe we'll start working some of these back into a little bit more. You guys have been awesome. Thanks for hanging out just for a little bit, little tiny, what was that, hour and a half-ish, which, pretty much called it. So I will catch you guys tomorrow in the Discord watching some Red Zone. If you guys don't already know, we watch Red Zone together in the Discord. There's the link if you're interested. Other than that, as this is also going to be probably going up to the good old YouTubes, if you have enjoyed the video, definitely hit the subscribe button, comment, just share the video as well if you liked it. Also, let me know what you kind of think. If you disagree with my picks, also let me know. But other than that, I will catch you guys later. And yeah, take care, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.